Hello, Andrea.
To me? Hi, welcome to WBHY Christian Radio.
Today, 2 books to look at. First, we'll consider TV plus psychology, and secondly, the difference. The back cover of the book reads like this. Thank you for your prayer support for this ministry. 22 minutes after the hour of 2 o'clock in Mobile, this is WBHY in Mobile. Up next, we have the Charter Connection, heard on this station every Thursday following Talk Back with Bob Larson. It's a half-hour show where you can call in and discuss the subject that Bob Larson has just discussed. If you want to discuss finances, today is your day to do it. You got a chance to call in. You might even go ahead and get on the line now. Our number is 770-WBHY. The lines are open now for the Charter Connection. Following the program, we have a 5-minute program called How to Manage Your Money with Larry Burkett. It's heard Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. And on that program, Larry helps deal with financial issues as well. And following it, we'll be moving into Christmas music all afternoon until we conclude our broadcast day at 5 o'clock this afternoon. For the next 30 minutes, it's the Charter Connection, sponsored by Charter Hospital of Mobile. Our lines are now open at 770-WBHY. Our host is Dr. Jim Hedrick, Director of the Christian Counseling Center of Mobile, an affiliate of Charter Hospital. Dr. Hedrick will discuss with you the issue.
We're glad to have you this afternoon. We'll be following up on he and I have known each other for some time. Ben is involved with insurance and financial planning services. But what I like best about Ben is he was trained by Larry Burkett, who has a program that follows ours today about Christian financial concepts. And so we'll be talking today. Ben does have that background. Ben, we welcome you to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Jim. It's nice to be here.
It's kind of a difficult subject we're talking about today when we're talking about spending addiction and how people get into trouble and get in before they know it in most cases. What do you think is the number one cause of that?
I think probably the number one cause of that would be from the fact that we're not educated and trained at all in money matters. We were talking about that earlier today, and that most of us go through high school and college and we know how to account for money after we spend it, but we do very little in planning ahead.
Right, and the thing about credit today, credit cards. 2 weeks ago, I received 5 letters, each offering me a new Visa card and with different credit rates and lines of credit and percentage of interest. It seems like we're being inundated by companies today offering these credit cards, and those things I know are dangerous.
Well, that's true, and it's very enticing, especially at this time of the year where folks are spending all the money they have and the Christmas season coming along, and they're looking for maybe a way that they can get that extra gifts, something for the children, husband and wife, mother, father, and they wind up seeing an easy source for that, and it's easy to go ahead and accept that card, spend the money, and then reality sets in next month or even the next month. And
I'm convinced that's one of the reasons that this time of the year, and then of course after the first of the year, we deal with so much depression that so many people, when the reality, as you were just saying, sets in of what they've done. Now, how in the world am I going to get out of what I got myself into? Somehow, I realize that everybody that spends money at Christmas is not addicted. And yes, there almost seems to be a frenzy at Christmas time. And, these times of the year, to spend and to buy without the reality of is that really what matters? And how am I going to pay it back later?
that's very true. As Bob Larson spoke earlier about the addiction, very much like any other addiction, we get a real high from making a purchase, nice gift for ourselves, one of our loved ones, and then we get a real low at a later date when we realize that we either have to pay for it, or if we've already paid for it, that it's come from other areas of our budget perhaps that now is going to be cut short, so to speak, that you spent the milk money.
Yeah, that's what we're listening to Bob Larson. Let me remind you, our listeners, that we do want you to call and share with us. If you find yourself with a spending addiction, we'd be glad to talk to you. If you have a comment about it, maybe some of you out there listening have been in a spending binge, and then you had to deal with it afterwards, and you could share something with our listeners from that. We would very much appreciate your comments. Remind you, our telephone number is 770-WBHY. It's 9249. And we very much would like you to come and share with us by way of telephone any comments or questions, and maybe today you find that you've been having this kind of an addiction to spending, and you need to talk to someone. If you give us a call, we'll be glad to talk with you or to recommend someone for you to get with who could help you. Ben, I had something happen to me the other day. I was talking with an individual, and as it turns out, it was a lady, but I realized this is not limited to ladies. Men and women both can share pretty equal in a spending addiction. And this individual I was speaking with said that, and it was a lady, said that she got such a high, she almost compared it to the physical relationship between a husband and wife and the physical part. And that kind of, I had not heard it expressed like that, said that it was so intense, she felt so good, and that this was what she was experiencing. That kind of wakes you to what this addiction can do and how much it can mean to a person.
That's very true, and as we system are such that it can be related to many, many things. We all enjoy buying, spending money for things that we need and would like to have for ourselves and our loved ones.
Thank you for calling. You're on the air. Go ahead.
I tend to relate to a lot of the callers. My husband and I are both Christians, but we are very much in debt. And last month or the month before, we saw a lawyer about filing bankruptcy and decided to take this step. And in the meantime, we've experienced a lot of guilt over it. And he, of course, told us to just stop paying our bills, and which we thought, well, you know, that's what we needed to hear. But since then, is this God telling us not to do this? But then we feel that we don't have anything else to do.
Ben, would you like to respond to that?
Sure. One thing I'd like to ask you first is, how long has it been now since you did file the bankruptcy?
We have not filed yet.
Okay. Of course, there's no term bankruptcy in Scriptures, even though many people use that as their way to escape the inevitable, and that's paying these bills. I would recommend that before you do that, sit down with someone, and our station here would be able to recommend some people to you. Sit down with someone that can give you some advice on what you might be able to do in establishing, reviewing what you spent, but establishing a budget, and see if there's not a way that you can't come out of this thing of the debt without being bankrupt. Even if you did have to go bankrupt, scripturally you're still responsible for those obligations, and you get a lot of pleasure out of repaying those over the years. But I think you can see many times that with a budget established and with some counseling, we can suggest to you a number of ways that you can reach the debtors, the people that you owe rather, and it's a rare situation that these people will not work with you in some way. When they know that you recognize the problem, you're working on it, either you visit them face-to-face, send them a letter, and there are a number of ways that you can do that, and I would suggest that be a consideration before you file for bankruptcy.
And we found that when you do contact creditors and you explain to them the situation, they don't want you to go bankrupt. I mean, they lose everything. They have nothing to gain by that. And in most cases, when they know the person's sincere, and you sit down and say, tell them the situation you're in, they will sometimes let you just pay the interest until you can get back and get yourself under a budget. And of course, I don't know how Ben would describe it this way, but in most cases we get ourselves in this type of situation because of lack of self-discipline. And that's where one thing a budget does. It does help us to get in a disciplined situation. And as a Christian, for us, we're called disciples. And that's what it means, is disciplined one. And in most cases, when we have a situation like this where, like, finances were cut, like you are receiving $300 less a month, plus the fact that you all are already in financial difficulties,
is there some way to keep, like, I know that I've spent a lot of money. I'm a Christian now, and the financial burden is there, and I'm trying to get out of this. Is there support groups here? Is there someone that can sit down and show me the problem? Because I know that the problem is there, but if I knew how to correct it, I wouldn't have the problem. So is there anyone that can sit down and like a financial advisors, or who do you go to when you know that you have a problem, but it has not gone to the point where, as the caller before, you need bankruptcy? You see it before.
Well, I think a number of routes that you can take, but primarily, are you on a budget of any kind?
I've just now tried to sit down and make a budget starting this month.
Okay.
But I can already see that the money's not going to be there to make sure that I pay all the bills.
Okay. Well, one of the things that you might do before you even go anywhere else, because a lot of times self-help is the best help, if you take your last 3 months' checks and just review them and see where you are spending your money, because most people don't really know where their money is going. That'll help you to establish a budget based on what you are doing now. If you realize all of a sudden that with your take-home pay plus credit cards, you're spending more than you make, then you can see that you definitely have a problem. As far as the support group, I understand there are some. I don't know about here in our town, but around the country there are support groups like anonymous groups. But I would think through a planner, an accountant, church group, you could get all the support you need in the direction. But I think the first step is to try self-analysis and see where you are.
It is really important to look back over what you've been doing, not just where you want to go and how much money you got now, and then try to paying off the bills. But you need to see where your spending is going, because many times just by looking back over those checks and things where you've already spent your money, you'll find places that you could easily change your spending habits. And that's one of the things that I think Ben was pointing out, is that you look at what your habits already are. Okay, then you may need to take a look at some things that you're assuming are already in concrete, that are settled. I've got to pay these this way. There may be, you may have to make some changes in that. Ben, is there if I suggest someone see you? They should contact you.
Certainly.
Ben, who's my guest today, Ben Schoenfeld, has helped a number of folks for me in the counseling that I've been doing. When I find someone who's very deep in trouble and I can't seem to find a way to help them get out, I send them to him. He's got all the expertise in that respect, and that's what he's a financial services consultant. Like I say, I like to use Ben because he has comes with the Christian financial concept.
Right.
And that's why someone like that could be of help to you.
I might mention also to the caller that we're talking about a service that is for no fee. There is no cost involved. We're not interested in making money to help a brother or sister in need. So you could call the station for more information. We'd be happy to meet with you.
May I give you your phone number?
Sure.
All right. If you'd like to talk to him, his name is Ben Schoenfeld.
Okay.
And his phone number is 471-1340.
1340.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is great, because this is exactly what I've been looking for, is someone to give me the direction that I need, because I know where I've been and I don't want to be there. I don't want to get it caught as so many other callers on the Bob Larson. So, you could tell that the misery and everything, and I've been there, but not to the degree, and God has showed me that I'm supposed to be a good steward of my money and my time, but I don't know how.
Well, it's interesting that, it's required of a steward that we found faithful. And I think that's what discipline is all about. Discipline and being faithful will go hand in hand. And the disciplining of yourself. The fact that you've gone through postgraduate school tells me that you have to be somewhat of a disciplined person to study and to learn and to get that done. That tells me a lot about you. And so we'll be praying for you. Ben, and Ben will be looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you for calling.
Great. Thank you for having this show. This is great for this area. I'm just thankful that Bob Larson and you and your station have been there when we've needed you. Thank you, and God bless both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go ahead, you're on the air.
Thank you. Have you got any recommendations for the spouse of a spending addict?
For the spouse of a spending addict? I know this sounds like a crazy recommendation, but there's I tried to call Alcoholics Anonymous because there is a group called Debtors Anonymous, and I could not find a local support group. But some of the things that they do, such as Al-Anon, because an addiction is an addiction. It doesn't make a difference whether some people transfer from cigarettes to alcohol to...
Hey, that was my other question. I thought so.
So I would recommend Al-Anon, and you may find some who have that in common there. But at this moment, I do not know of a debtors group. I've been trying to find a support group here, but if any of our listeners is aware of it, you might could call us and tell us where that group meets, so that we could share this with this lady who's called.
Or perhaps one could be started.
That's true.
For the spouses.
That's right.
All right, I thank you.
Hey, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to share a word about credit cards and the trouble that it can really get a person in. I, was guilty of charging for years and years, and then just, paying the minimum amount and then charging, to the limit. And sometimes you can just not face reality that it'll ever catch up with you. But last year, it just kind of all, caught up in my own life, and the stress that you get from all the bills and everything is, not worth, what it is to always be able to buy something. And I'm thankful that the Lord, provides someone to help us with our bills, and I'll just never charge again, because that's the thing that is, to do without is better than to have the stress of the credit cards.
It does have a tremendous amount of pressure, doesn't it?
Tremendous amount.
Well, let me ask you this. I gather that you have dealt with this in your own life, and I've not heard anyone say it exactly, but would you consider that a form of bondage?
It definitely was a bondage, because you would go out and buy the stuff, and then when the bills come, you were in the bondage to the bills, and you knew that you couldn't pay them off, because they would just get charged so much more than we could ever pay towards by paying the minimum. Just every month it came back worse, and I never faced it for so many years. They finally faced it when I did. And you can get to the point where it can get so bad that you won't see any future. And that's, the way I got last year, but, through some godly counsel, just been able to come out of it.
That's wonderful. Thank you for calling and sharing that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Remind you again, that number is 770-WBHY-9249, and we do welcome your call, and you folks have been so helpful. Next week, our program is going to be called Holiday Blues. I don't know if you've ever experienced it during Christmas, and even prior to Christmas, but we're going to be talking about the holiday blues, and we encourage you to tune in next week. And now we'd like to just tell you that we are trying to be here each week, Thursday at 2:30, and invite you to be part of this program. And from the Christian Counseling Center, sometimes we can help you with counseling, and if you need to talk with us, our phone number is 473-3292. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Oh, yes, I want to ask this question. I've often gone to, seminars and sessions that were presented by Christian financial planners, and some of them will say this, the best way to get out of debt is just to get your credit cards and cut them right in two and send them back to, the company that issued the card. And I have to agree to a great extent, but I have to ask this question: if a person is discarding the credit cards altogether, what if a person's gone on a trip and the car has problems? Isn't it a good time to have credit cards during those type of situations?
Well, really, it's not necessarily a good time to have them, even though we might think so, because we're so accustomed to having them. People do take cash. They do take traveler's checks. I think a traveler's check is even more acceptable than the credit card, because you know that you have the money and you don't have to worry about it being charged. If you do have a significant car expense, perhaps on a trip, that you didn't have enough cash or credit traveler's checks, then of course having a credit card might be acceptable. But I can't think of any other reason.
And of course, the temptation of the credit card is to use it because we don't have cash for the moment. Keeping one for identification, like for being write a check, or for but you all have to make a commitment, and that's the key word, commitment, that you would use it only when it was an emergency, that you're going to pay it back, and you knew you had the money already on hand. Credit is spending money that you don't have. It's spending into the future, and you have to be careful. That's what credit cards tempt us to do. So that you need further work on, Ben?
Well, I think that it's so much easier to carry the credit card and not have the discipline that goes along with the responsibility. We do have to do a little extra sometimes when we take cash, maybe go to the bank a little more often, but I can assure you in the long run, it would be worth it.
Listen, we do appreciate you calling today.
Thank you.
Sometimes problems can be just too big to handle alone.
So the Lord must have thought that it was a very important item, yet most of us have very little education as to money matters.
What Scripture says about that, isn't it?
Right.
That's good. Go ahead, you're on the air.
Yes, I wanted to make a comment on the fact that there's a lot of times we have to learn to do our own repair work and to not add on to the credit cards and to just wait on the Lord to take care of that situation. That's what we have had to do, is just learn to do our own repair work as far as the car and the house, different things like that.
You know, that's an interesting word that no one has said anything about that. I thought about it earlier, that not only doing it for yourself, be a do-it-yourself type thing, but what about bartering with a neighbor?
That too, we have done that.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. So often we think we've got to go out and pay for it or charge it.
And have somebody else do it, it gets us into more trouble.
Yeah, and being a little creative. Sometimes I believe God puts us in these types of situations, or allows us to get ourselves into it, that He can show us that we've got abilities but we've never attempted.
And we need to depend on Him to be able to get us through.
Exactly. I appreciate that word. And many folks, can do that.
Yes.
But they've never been pushed to try it, to find out what you can do. My wife pushes me quite often. I keep telling her I'm not her daddy. Her daddy has this ability to do all kinds of things.
On months when you miss a payment on a credit card, usually when we miss a month, we'll go back the next month and make a double payment. But we get phone calls, we get letters saying, you haven't made your payment this month. Please don't force us to take you to a collection agency. And we've written letters explaining, we're doing what we can. We will send you this much every month. Please work with us. Some people are willing, and some people are just adamant about, no, we cannot work with you. We have so many customers, and da-da-da. So when they threaten you with the collection agency, how can you deal with that?
That's a very good question. The problem that you've gotten yourself into from the past, of course, is still one that you're trying to recover from, and I commend you for doing that. Most of the time, if you can work a way that you can pay at least something to every creditor each month, not only is that a source of satisfaction for yourself, but it tends to keep them satisfied as well.
Right.
One of the things we try to recommend is that you take the debtors, the creditors you have each month, work very hard to eliminate one of them as quickly as you can. Maybe double up on payments. You take the smallest one, for instance. Let's say your largest bill was $1,000. Your smallest was $50.
Mm-hmm.
Try to get rid of that $50 debt as quickly as you can. Not only will it give you personal satisfaction, that'll be one less that could ever call you.
Right.
And then continue to work your way up the ladder. Send these people a letter again to remind them that you are working. If you don't work with someone, that may be something you might want to consider, for them to be able to say to these creditors that we're working to help this person or family to establish a budget. Mm-hmm. And as we've seen their budget and their income, we can send you each month this amount. And the thing about that letter and that contact is, you've told them your intentions, and then you need to stick to it. Pay them every month.
The one thing we have a problem with is each month we have sat down and we have made out probably 5 budgets since we've been married almost 2 years. And we just can't stick with them. And it's to the point now where we're thinking we need to go to somebody to help us do this, because we can't do it. And, you know, we pray about it, and we go fine for like 3 months, and then it's just back in the old same routine, you know.
But the routine should tell you something. Let me make a couple other suggestions. Sounds like you folks are walking on the edge most of the time. You're right up to what you're spending, your income, and you're right walking on the edge. That is tragedy, because it's sure shooting. The car's going to break down. Someone's going to get sick. Or
That's it. See, right now, my husband needs tires, and we can't even go buy tires.
Exactly. So the first idea is, well, we'll have charges. Let me make another suggestion to you. When Ben said that if you have a bill that's $50 and paying it off, when you pay it off, you do not have $50 more spendable income. You then take that $50 and put it on and you add that to what you were already paying on one of the other bills. So one at a time. My daughter, and she probably will kill me for saying this on the air, but she and I sat down and I showed her how she could get out of debt in 2 years, including paying off her car, by paying one bill that she owed at a time, once that was paid off, taking the money that she was putting on that bill, add it to what she was paying on one of the others, and then it cut the time it would have taken her to pay that one off in half. And eventually, even her car would be paid off in 2 years. Now that sounds hard to believe if you sit down and look at it in using a financial planner of some kind.
Can I ask you, do you refer people to financial planners? This guest that you have on your program today, does he do this?
Yes, Ben does. The reason I use him is because he was trained by Christian Financial Concepts.
That's exactly what we've been looking for, and we haven't, we're new in town here, so nobody knows who to refer us to.
I understand.
And we don't know who to ask.
Well,
are you going to give his name and his phone number or anything?
Yes, and I'll be glad to repeat it. His name is Ben Schoenfeld, Schoenfeld, and his phone number is 471-1340.
Wonderful.
And he is, I have a lot of confidence in him. I was asking him to be my guest on the show today. I have used him with a number of couples that I have counseled with, and God has used him in a mighty way in helping couples. So, listen, we do appreciate you calling in. And let me say this, since you said this thing seems to be repeating itself, with 2 or 3 months you'll be doing fine. That may indicate that there's a spiritual part of self-discipline that you guys may need to look very closely at.
We know that.
And
we realize that. And it's just now to the point, especially coming up to the holidays, where we realize, we're taking things, not literally taking away from our children because they're not doing without anything that they need, but the fun times and the things that you want to do during the holidays, we can't do because of the lack of money. So,
Right. See, the thing is, you need to be held accountable. We all need accountability. And it doesn't sound like y'all are being accountable to each other. Y'all are kind of agreeing together. So maybe a financial planner, someone like that, or someone who counts with you about that, who will hold you accountable. What did you spend? Did you stick to the budget? If you, of course, one of the things that I know Ben would have you do, he'd have you go back and look for a number of months, sometimes as much as a year, to see where you've been spending your money.
Oh, we know where we've been spending it, and I could shoot myself. We go out to eat a lot. And we don't need to do that.
That's right.
I know that. But it's so easy when you're driving down the road and you say, well, we've got $10 here. Let's just pull into Burger King or whatever. It's too easy.
That's very true. And that's one of the things that you might consider as an impulse of some kind. And did you mention we're not charging anymore now?
No, we cut up all the credit cards and we canceled all our charge accounts.
Well, that's good.
Everybody.
Well, that's certainly a help, and as you go along, you'll find out that in budgeting, though, even though you've established one and followed it and then retrogress like we all do from time to time, one of the systems that you can use is when you allocate the money to the specific item for the budget, such as groceries, you don't take money out of that to spend it in another category. So, if you didn't just because you had the $10 didn't mean that you could really stop to go out and eat.
Right.
That money may have been earmarked for something else, and you spent it. And then that was probably cash.
Yeah.
One of the unfortunate things we have sometimes, and not with cash, but is that about 23 to 25% of our income we cannot account for. If you take a piece of paper and take with you each day for the next week or a month and record every penny that you spend, is the only way you can account for all your money. And if you can't, or if you don't do that, the statistics are such that you'll see that even though you have bought a lot of things, you can't remember where you spent all your money.
Right.
Let me suggest something else to you. You're talking about, well, riding down the road, you know, and we like to go out and eat. Of course, my wife and I like to do the same thing. But what we find is that because we don't have the money, we have to be a little more creative. Like, what's wrong with having a picnic in the den? Doing something, or sometimes I think it's too easy to go into a restaurant, and I realize it requires less work, but I think we miss some creativeness that God's put inside of us. It's not even used because we